Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're not going to talk about schemes or power struggles. We aren't talking about thrilling plot twists. Today, we are telling the story of a quiet but equally fierce battle, the war against winter. And in that bone-chilling cold, a small dream was lit. The dream of a brick kitchen. A kitchen might sound ordinary, but for Toan and Diem right now, it is the line between warmth and freezing to the bone. It is the symbol of a true home gradually taking shape amidst the wild hills. Will they finish it before the most brutal north winds strike? And how will Toan, a man with amnesia, manage with the very first bricks? So, brew a hot cup of tea, wrap yourself in a warm blanket, and listen to this emotional story. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to help warm up Toan and Diem. Toan, we should build a small kitchen. Cooking outdoors like this, it's not working at all. Diem spoke while trying to shield the wood fire, which was flickering wildly in the wind with her own body. Toan, sitting nearby, splitting firewood, looked up at his wife. The dancing flames illuminated Diem's face, flushed red from the cold. Diem, I agree. When do you want to start? I want to start tomorrow. Tomorrow, let's sit down and plan, so we can begin immediately. From the very first days they set foot on this wild farm, lent to them by Thu's kind family, the idea of a brick kitchen had been kindled in Diem's heart. It wasn't the impulsive thought of a demanding woman. It was a burning desire for stability. Just imagine amidst vast hills, the wind howling from all four directions. The wooden cabin offered shelter from the rain and sun, but it lacked a heart. The heart of a home is the kitchen. That place must be warm. That place must smell of cooked rice, not the acrid smoke blowing into your face. Diem stood in the middle of the weed-filled yard, pointing toward an old remaining brick wall. I can picture it. We'll install kitchen cabinets along this wall. If we extend it out this way a bit, I can catch the morning sun while I cook. Toan looked where his wife pointed. He didn't see the mess or the pile of rubble. He saw the hope in his wife's eyes. And for him, that was enough to start. But life is never as easy as the blueprints in our dreams. Just as the idea began to bloom, an uninvited guest knocked on the door. Winter. Winter in the mountains arrives much faster and more brutally than in the plains. It strikes without warning, with north winds as sharp as razors. Frost blankets the grass every morning. The cold is no longer just uncomfortable. It becomes torture. Every meal became a battle. The stove was set up outdoors, shielded only by a few torn tarps. The wind drafted in from all sides. The flames would flare up only to be snuffed out by the gusts. Smoke blew back into their stinging eyes. Diem's hands were stiff red and swollen with chilblains from washing rice and vegetables in the freezing water. There were days when Toan watched his wife trembling, trying to start the fire, and his heart ached. He quietly went to her, taking Diem's freezing hands and tucking them inside his shirt to warm them. "Let me do it. You go inside." "No, I can do it. You go in before you get sick again." Diem firmly pushed him away. In that freezing cold, they realized the brick kitchen was no longer a want. It was an urgent necessity. If they didn't have a kitchen, they wouldn't survive this winter. Toan's health had just recovered. He couldn't endure this cold forever. Perfect. Let's order the first batch of bricks right now. The decision was made quickly on a morning when the fog hadn't even lifted. They didn't have much money to hire workers. they would do it themselves. Toan, the amnesiac construction architect, who in his past life probably never touched a brick, now rolled up his sleeves, mixed mortar, and carried cement. Diem, a woman of gentle hands, became his most effective assistant. "Pass me another brick, Diem. We have to finish this layer before lunch." "Coming right up!" Their laughter and voices echoed through the whistling wind. They worked as a seamless team. No harsh orders, just understanding and support. Toan held the trowel, spreading a thick layer of mortar onto the foundation. He carefully placed a bright red brick down, tapping it gently with the handle of the trowel to set it straight. The first brick, it wasn't just building material, it was the foundation for a new life. It was a declaration of war against the harsh winter out there. Diem stood by wiping sweat from her husband's forehead, her eyes shining with pride. "Toan, we're about to start a new life. I feel so happy having you by my side." But building a kitchen isn't easy, especially for two amateurs. There were times the wall leaned and had to be torn down and redone from scratch. There were times the mortar was mixed wrong, too dry, and wouldn't stick. And most terrifying were the sudden bouts of freezing rain and wind soaking both the people and the materials. "Honey, are you tired? Should we take a break?" Diem asked worriedly, seeing Toan gasping for breath. Toan shook his head, smile still on his lips, despite his face being smeared with mud and dirt. "Tired? No way. I'm building a home for my wife. Look, this wall will block the north wind. We'll put the stove right here. You won't have to curl up in the cold anymore." That very sentence fueled them both. They worked forgetting the time, forgetting the cold, because they were building a real dream. A dream of piping hot meals, of winter nights, gathered around a glowing fire, telling each other little stories and ignoring the storms raging outside. Day by day, the kitchen gradually took shape. Rustic red brick walls rose up sturdy and proud. The roof was finished completely, shielding that small space from the gray sky. And the most sacred moment arrived the first day lighting a fire in the new kitchen. No more drafts, no more rain splashing in. Toan lit the match. The fire caught the dry wood, crackling pop, 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 dancing happily in the stove. Warmth radiated throughout the space, chasing away the damp chill that had lingered for so long. Diem placed the pot of rice on the stove. The scent of new rice blended with the smell of drying mortar. She looked at Toan, her eyes welling up. "We did it, honey." Toan took his wife's hand, a hand that was calloused but incredibly warm. "Yeah, we did it. From now on, you won't have to suffer the cold." The first meal in this new kitchen was simple, just boiled vegetables and dried fish. But to them, it was the most sumptuous feast on earth. Because it was seasoned with the spices of love, effort, and hope. The journey of building the small kitchen had closed a chapter. But Toan and Diem's life journey was only just beginning. This kitchen would witness their next ups and downs, their smiles and their tears. Will this winter pass peacefully? Or are there other challenges waiting for them ahead? The dawn of the next day didn't bring golden sunshine. The sky was heavy and gray, looking like it wanted to collapse. Frost blanketed the grass in white, turning the farm into a silent, frozen world. The cold today was sharper, more biting than yesterday. Toan woke up first. He tiptoed out of bed so as not to wake Diem. He opened the door. Click! A blast of cold wind rushed in, making him shiver. Toan pulled up his collar and stepped out into the yard. He walked toward the plot of land they marked out yesterday. The white lime lines were still there, standing out against the dark brown earth. Toan stood there taking a deep breath. The freezing air filled his lungs, awakening every sense. Today was going to be a long day. He began preparing the materials. The pile of old bricks in the corner of the garden was covered in a thin layer of frost. Cement, sand, water. Everything was ready. Toan rolled up his sleeves, revealing his toned arms. He started mixing the first batch of mortar. The sound of the shovel scraping against the sand, the sound of water trickling into the mix. Those sounds of labor rang out in the quiet space, like an opening track for the new day. Diem woke up when she heard the clatter outside. She hurriedly put on a warm coat and ran out. Seeing Toan toiling away, mixing mortar sweat beading on his forehead, despite the freezing weather, her heart tightened with love. "You're up so early. Why didn't you wake me?" Diem scolded him gently, quickly pouring a cup of warm water to bring to her husband. Gon paused, took the cup, and smiled gently. "I wanted to get a head start. Look at this weather. It'll probably rain or snow this afternoon. We have to finish the rough build before dark, honey." Diem looked up at the gray sky and nodded worriedly. She understood this was a race against time. The work began. Diem was in charge of passing bricks to Toan. Toan was in charge of laying them. The first brick was placed in the corner. Toan carefully used the trowel handle to tap it, thud, thud, adjusting it to lie perfectly straight and aligned. Then the second, the third. The strange thing was, even though Toan had amnesia and didn't know what he did in his past, his hands moved with extreme proficiency. The way he held the trowel, the way he smoothed the mortar joints, the way he squinted to check the alignment. It all exuded an unbelievable professionalism. It seemed that deep in this man's subconscious, creating and building were ingrained in his flesh and blood. "Toan, you're so skilled. The wall is perfectly straight," Diem marveled. Toan laughed, wiping sweat from his forehead, leaving a smudge of mortar behind. "Maybe I was a bricklayer in my past life, wifey. Or maybe even an architect." Toan's joke made them both laugh, dispelling the tension of the work. But Diem didn't know that his joke was closer to the truth than she thought. By noon, the wall was chest high. The wind started blowing harder. Gusts whistled through the window gaps that hadn't been glazed yet, creating a ghostly hoo sound. Diem's hands were red and numb from holding cold bricks. Seeing this, Toan immediately stopped working. "Diem, go inside and rest. Boil me a pot of tea. Let me handle the rest." "I'm fine. Listen to me. If you get sick, who's going to take care of me? Go inside." Toan's voice was firm but full of love. Diem had to listen. She ran inside to start the fire for water. Looking through the window frame, seeing her husband's silhouette diligently laying every brick in the howling wind, Diem felt her heart warm up. This kitchen wasn't finished, but it already felt so warm. Early in the afternoon, an incident occurred. Toan was digging a little deeper in the corner of the kitchen to make a foundation for a baking oven. A sudden idea he wanted to gift to Diem. Clang! His hoe struck something hard. It wasn't a rock. The sound wasn't the dull thud of stone. It was sharper, more resonant. "Metal," Toan frowned. He brushed aside the loose soil. About 20 inches, 50 centimeters deep, the corner of a rusted metal box was revealed. It wasn't large, about the size of an old cookie tin, but it had been buried quite carefully. "Diem, calm, look at this," Toan called out. Diem ran, over peering curiously into the hole. "What is it?" "I don't know. My hoe just hit it. Looks like someone buried it here a long time ago." Toan carefully used his trowel to pry the dirt away from the sides and lifted the box out. It was heavy, covered in rust and red earth. There was a small rotted padlock on it. The couple looked at each other. A mix of curiosity and nervousness crept into their minds. This was Mr. Thu's family land. Could this be a family heirloom or something forgotten? "Open it, honey," Diem whispered, as if afraid to break the mystery. Toan jammed the tip of his trowel into the rotted lock and pried hard. Crack, the lock snapped. The lid sprang open. Inside, there were no jewels or gold. Only an old, yellowed leather notebook wrapped in moisture-proof plastic, and a black and white photograph. Toan picked up the photo. In the picture was a young, dashing man, smiling radiantly next to a wooden house. The very house they were living in. But what made Toan freeze was the man in the photo. He had the exact same eyes and forehead as Toan. Toan stood paralyzed. His hands trembled violently. Diem noticed it too. She covered her mouth, gasping, "Toan, this man, why does he look just like you?" A jolt of electricity ran down Toan's spine. A blinding headache struck him. Fragments of memory flashed in his mind like strobe lights, laughter crying fire in this man's face. Before he could compose himself, boom, a deafening clap of thunder cut through his thoughts. Dark clouds had completely covered the sky. The first hailstones began to patter down on the tin roof and the newly laid bricks. "It's raining. Put the box away. We have to cover the wall immediately," Diem screamed, pulling Toan back to reality. The secret in the box had to wait. The war with nature had begun again. The storm arrived too fast, accompanied by violent gusts. The newly built brick wall, with its mortar still wet, stood precariously in the wind. If they didn't cover it in time, the rain would wash away the mortar joints, and a whole day's effort would be washed down the drain. Toan hurriedly shoved the metal box into his chest pocket and dashed to find a large tarp. Diem hold this stake. The couple wrestled with the tarp amidst the raging storm. The wind whipped the tarp like a sail trying to take flight. Toan strained every muscle, using his entire body weight to pin down the edge of the tarp while hammering the stake into the ground with his other hand. The rain lashed their faces, stinging. The cold water soaked through to their bones. "Hold on, honey," Diem cried out amidst the wind. She was terrified the wall would collapse on Toan. "I've got it. Go inside," Toan shouted. But Diem didn't leave. She grabbed several large bricks, weighing down the edge of the tarp to help her husband. And so, two small human beings fought against nature's fury to protect their dream. After nearly 30 minutes of struggle, the tarp was finally secured, completely covering the new kitchen wall. Soaked like drowned rats, the couple helped each other run into the main house. That night, the storm screamed outside the window, but inside, Toan and Diem were safe. They changed into dry clothes, huddling by a fire in the middle of the room to warm up. Diem dried her husband's hair, wincing when she saw the bleeding scratches on his hands from securing the tarp. "Next step for you. Would you like me to translate the scene where they open the leather notebook and discover the shocking connection between Toan and the man in the photo? Or should we end the episode here, with the mystery hanging in the air?" Only when warmth had returned to their bodies did Toan slowly pull the metal box from his pocket. He placed it before them, the firelight illuminating the leather notebook and the old photograph. The air grew heavy. Diem sat close to her husband, grasping his hand. "Do you want to see what's written inside?" Toan hesitated. He was afraid. He feared that whatever was written inside would shatter the peaceful life he and Diem had just built. Who was the man in the photo? Why did he look so much like Toan? And why was this box buried beneath the foundation of Mr. Thu's house? Toan turned the first page. The handwriting was neat. The ink faded by time. Date: "To my son. If one day you read these lines, it means Dad is no longer here." With every word Toan read, his heart pounded harder. But right at that moment, click, click, a strange sound came from the main door. It wasn't the wind. It was the sound of someone deliberately prying at the lock. Toan snapped the notebook shut. He signaled Diem to stay silent. He grabbed a burning piece of firewood, stood up abruptly, and moved toward the door. Outside, the storm was raging. Who would come at this hour? Was it the person who buried the box returning? Or worse, had the enemies in the shadows finally found them? The prying sound stopped. A terrifying silence descended. Then suddenly, a white piece of paper was slid through the crack under the door. Toan held his breath, bending down to pick it up. On the paper was a single, hastily written line. The ink smeared by rain. "Stop digging. Leave here immediately if you want to live." Toan looked at Diem, his face drained of blood. The secret underground wasn't just the past. It was a deadly warning. The brick kitchen was unfinished. The storm was still screaming. And now, real danger had knocked on their door. Dear friends, we have just lived through breathtaking moments with Toan and his wife. From the hope of building a warm kitchen to a shocking underground discovery. And now, a mysterious threat in the stormy night. Who is the man in the photo? How is he related to Toan? And who sent that chilling warning? Their new life at the farm seems far less peaceful than they thought. Will Toan and Diem heed the warning and flee? Or will they stay to uncover the truth and protect their home? The answer will be revealed in the next episode. Leave a comment with your theories about the mystery of the iron box. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the dramatic events to come. Goodbye, and I wish you all a good night, even though Toan and Diem certainly won't be sleeping tonight. See you next time.
Trên vô tình kia, anh sẽ nghe thấy tiếng thở mong manh của tôi. Anh sẽ bảo vệ con bé.